Big Bro's not just gorgeous, he likes it wild too. Dropped a few $100 million on a top-tier alpha just to keep him as a pet. Also, he could watch the highest class crawl at his feet. I'm saying, Big Bro, you sure you won't get burned playing with fire? Big Bro's loaded, good-looking, and ruthless to boot. Got a whole crew following him around. People on the streets call him President Park. Today he went to deal with some guy who owes him money. The old man kept begging, give him some time and he'd scrape the cash together. Everyone says that when the debt collectors come knock. But from what he knows, the old man's company is going belly up. No way he can pay him back. If he can't pay up, he suggests using his daughter to settle the debt. His daughter's in Omega. Keep her in line for 10 years and the debt's covered. That hit a nerve. The old man started cursing him out. I hear you're an Omega yourself, right? They say you're an Omega, but you don't even have a hint of pheromones. But someone as tall and cold-hearted as you. Even if you're not an alpha, you gotta be a beta, right? You got to where you are today. Did you do it like those Omegas you sell off? Selling yourself to climb the ladder. Now that you've got nothing left to sell. You're going after your own kind, huh? Before the old man could keep going, he saw President Park with a knife walking towards him with a dark look on his face. That's when he remembered who the monster in front of him was. Terrified, he begged for mercy. Too bad, too late. Nothing he says matters now. Afterward, President Park couldn't calm down. But not because he just ended someone's life. He really is an Omega. A broken Omega without even a trace of pheromones. It's a memory that cuts deep just thinking about it. His assistant stepped forward, interrupting his thought. Another Omega in debt committed suicide today. Hearing that, President Park froze for a second. Turns out this Omega had a son. He coldly gave the order. Before he runs off, bring him to me now. His crew works fast. Before long, a tall guy gets shoved in front of President Park. The moment President Park saw him, he started sizing him up. Nothing like what he imagined. Nothing like that Omega either. And since he walked in, there's this scent that's been making him uneasy. But it's kind of intoxicating, lingering around him. He walked up and grabbed the guy by the collar. One yank and the guy was on his feet. You're an alpha, aren't you? Never thought that Omega would have a son like you. That comment made the guy think of his mother. Why were you even born into a family like mine? You should have been born into a better family. I never should have had you. He laughed bitterly. Aren't you just some Omega who goes crazy around office? After he said that, the office went dead silent. Like the calm before a storm. President Park asked, unsure, what did you say? Because only a handful of people know he's an Omega. The guy said, you have a scent, or am I wrong? His men were about to teach him a lesson, but President Park stopped. He let go of the guy and turned to look at the loan contract. Does he have a scent? Is he imagining things? If he's just guessing, that doesn't make sense. But if he really can smell something on him, that makes even less sense. Spent a few $100 million on an alpha. Might as well get his money's worth. First things first, strip. Train him into his personal little pet. President Park just wanted his money back at first. But one comment changed his mind. Can this alpha really sense something from him? You know about your father's deaths, right? The guy acted like he didn't care. Yeah, plenty of them. But when he heard 600 million, he couldn't believe it. How could it possibly be that much? You're lying. President Park laughed. Sure, I got a bad rep on the streets, but I don't need to scam dead people for cash. You know how it goes, the longer you're in this business, the less you're worth. At first, it was just to raise the only son. Then lost track, got hooked on drugs. Then started gambling. So, yeah, you're innocent, but a son pays his father's debts, that's the rule. The guy clenched his fists. What do I gotta do? Tell me, you brought me here, so you must have a plan. President Park sneered. Even if you worked yourself to death, you might cover proof. But the interest keeps piling up. But hey, I'm not some heartless loan shark. He picked up the loan contract and thought, this is way too fun. How could I possibly let him go? In a flash, he ripped the contract to shreds. You're 600 million debt, I'll take. But you're gonna pay me back in your own way. Sell yourself to me. The guy couldn't keep up. What, you wanna buy me? President Park didn't mind spelling it out. What is what I said hard to understand? Dawang, you belong to me. Got it. Seeing no objection, he gave the order. First, strip. Everything top to bottom, underwear too. Knowing what Big Bro was about to do, all the crew quickly cleared out. Even though he's their boss, they still cracked jokes about this. Only one guy looked like he'd swallowed something nasty. Stood at the door refusing to leave. Inside, the guy resigned himself to servicing Big Bro. But Big Bro wasn't satisfied. This sent the guy at zero reaction. Did he just drop a few $100 million on a useless alpha? That'd make him a total chump. But looking at him, he doesn't seem broken. Maybe he's turned off because there's no pheromone. What a brat who needs training. He's not into forcing people. He walked out of the office and found his assistant standing guard at the. Assistant Yoon likes watching live action now. The assistant's face turned red as he apologized. President Park cut him off. You got one of those chains for big dogs. About this big. Just grab one that's about the right size. He couldn't wait to see what a high and mighty alpha would look like in a dog collar. What would a high and mighty alpha look like in a dog collar? Big Bro really wanted to know, so he made it happen. The crew quickly got the collar like Big Bro asked. The guy got dragged out right away. They forced the collar on him, despite his struggle. When the crew handed the leash to Big Bro couldn't be happy. It's perfect on him. Who would have thought the so-called highest class, looking down on all the betas and omegas, would be naked, kneeling in front of me, wearing a collar like some dog. The guy didn't look humiliated or beg for mercy. Instead, he laughed at what he heard. At first I thought you were just some psycho pervert. Turns out you're paranoid and totally insecure. But either way, don't you think you're pathetic? That hit a nerve. Big bro was furious. He tried moving past that time in his life. But even when he threw himself at a bait, but they still rejected him for not having pheromones. Total buzz king. That incident didn't just hurt him physically. It left permanent psychological scars. Made him deeply anxious and insecure. Turned him cruel and bloodthirsty. He yanked the chain hard. The guy got pulled right up to him. He grabbed the guy by the throat. Seems you still don't get the situation you're in. That's okay, I'll teach you slowly. First, open your mouth. When the guy didn't cooperate, Big Bro forced his mouth open. What you should be thinking about is how to keep this psycho pervert happy. He shoved a pill into the guy's mouth. Watched him swallow it. He cheerfully warned him, remember, don't hold back, or you might blow something inside. Then he told his crew to tie the guy's hands up tight. Now the guy finally started to panic, but he still tried to act. I might disappoint you. You'd be better off selling my kidneys for a bigger profit. Big Bro was pleased with his reaction. Let's see how long your confidence lasts. You alphas think you're so superior, right? Let's see just how disgusting you really are. Soon, pheromones filled the whole room. Watching the alpha trying so hard to control himself. Not defective at all, actually perfect. Soon the guy couldn't hold out anymore. In a daze, he walked towards him. Buried his face in his neck. Oh, smells so good, so sweet. Then suddenly he looked sad. Teacher, I'm sorry. I was wrong. I'm sorry. Hearing that, Big Bro quickly dropped the guy and left the room. You smell so good. Is that real? Can you really smell something on here? He told his men to dig into Seo Taeyeon's past. Who's this teacher he keeps talking about? Quality alpha, but no one knows who the father is. No matter how hard they dug, they couldn't find anything. Who's Seo Taeyeon's father? Only thing they know for sure is he's definitely an alpha. Big Bro figured it'd turn out this way. Even Seo Sai probably doesn't know which client it was. And not just any alpha, but a top tier one. That kind of alpha's gotta have serious status in society. No way they'd leave any paper trail on something like this. What Big Bro can't figure out is, why would someone in that line of work keep a client's kid? What's the reason? Going through all that hardship to keep the kid. Now she's dead. No one knows the answer. Big Bro tossed the file aside. None of that matters now. To avoid any surprises, draw me up a formal contract. Assistant Yoon could tell he was set on keeping Seo Tae. He immediately tried to stop him. President Director Choi already know. Seeing Big Bro looking at him, he nervously explained. I'm sorry, I had no choice. I have to report everything to him. Big Bro scoffed. Reporting is your job, you have to do it. Assistant Yoon was never my guy anyway. Assistant Yoon wanted to explain that's not how it is. Big Bro didn't want to hear his excuses. That person always knows everything about him anyway. Why can't he ever escape that disgusting scumbag? Big Bro's mood instantly soared. He quickly went looking for his alpha pet. But he'd been standing there forever and the pup didn't even try to please him. He just looked annoyed to see him. Big Bro grabbed him by the throat, pissed. Threw him onto the bed behind him. Then climbed on top and pinned him down. Ordered him to release your pheromones. Seo Tae-yoon wasn't going to. But seeing President Park's sad expression, the whole room instantly filled with an intense scent. Big Bro's not into forcing people. But borrowing some pheromones to take care of himself, that's fine. Seo Tae-yeon watched President Park's solo performance. Mocked him. Are all you Omegas this desperate? But seeing Big Bro clearly in pain, he reached out to help without thinking. With the two of them working together, Big Bro finished quick. Seeing the alpha he'd made a mess of, he was thrilled. Sure, he didn't seal the deal. But Big Bro still got what he wanted by taking matters into his own hands. Even the crew noticed Big Bro's obvious change. Today Big Bro looks radiant. Something good must have happened. It had been forever since he'd let loose like that. Big Bro felt more relaxed than ever. This morning the first thing he saw when he opened his eyes was the pup sleeping beside him. Looked like he was sleeping sound. Soon as they finished last night he passed out. Too bad they didn't actually do the deed. Honestly, that guy's pheromones are really something. Gotta find a way to seal the deal. When President Park got to the club, some punk near the entrance was harassing an Omega from inside. Snatched the tips little Omega just earned. Said he'd give it back if little Omega gave him a treat. Little Omega obviously didn't want to, it was his money. Isn't that just part of what you guys do? Having fun and making money at the same time. While the jerk was going on and on, he noticed Xiao's attention was all on something behind him. He turned around and saw President Park's death stare. Before he could beg for mercy, his guys pinned him to the ground. Meanwhile, President Park was still figuring out how to make the punk obey him willingly. Just then, the timid little Omega walked up to him to say thanks. President Park glanced at him and suddenly got an idea. The way to make an alpha lose control is an Omega in heat, right? How old are you? When President Park asked him, Xiao didn't react at first. President Park leaned in close to his neck and sniffed his pheromones. The scent was pretty nice. What are you deaf? I asked how old you are. Xiao jumped and immediately answered 22. President Park was very satisfied with that answer. Same age as his punk. Wanna play with my dog once? Hearing that, Xiao was scared out of his mind. Play with a dog, how? It couldn't be what he was thinking, right? But he quickly felt relieved. He'd never heard of the boss having any weird hobbies. Soon Xiao followed the guys to President Park's place. But as soon as he walked in, the assistant stopped him at the door. Then, President Park appeared on the second floor. Why are you still standing there? The assistant immediately guessed why the president brought this Omega here. He couldn't just stand by and let this happen. But how could the boss let him ruin his plans? Held him to get lost. Now the Omega was even more curious. Isn't it just playing with the president's dog for a bit? Why is she so nice? Plus he'd get 10 times the usual tip. He just didn't know what breed the president's dog was. A guy gets called by a big boss to play with his dog. Who knows what kind of play? Definitely not what you're thinking. But he'd never heard of President Park having any weird interests. Xiao reassured himself it was probably just walking the president's dog or something, and he was giving him 10 times the tip. He was dying to know what breed President Park's dog was. He just didn't get why the president wanted to bring that kind of drug. When President Park asked about it, he immediately pulled the medicine from his bag. President Park looked at the drug in his hand. Even though he was an Omega, he wasn't clear on how to use this drug. How long does it take to kick in? Harry asked that Xiao had a bad feeling. Why would he need this kind of drug? About 5 minutes or so. President Park was clearly satisfied with that. He opened the bedroom door and let the Omega in. Hope my punk satisfies you. The moment he saw the so-called dog, Xiao clearly panicked. There was a man. Or more precisely an alpha. Wearing a dog collar being let out. The Omega immediately wanted to run. But he didn't dare disobey President Park's orders. Then President Park grabbed his shoulder from behind. Scared. My punk's scared of you too. Looks like I don't need to introduce you. You've both sensed what the other is, right? No need to waste my breath then. Then he ordered Xiao out. What are you spacing out for? Use the drug. Shu Taiyong saw the drug in Xiao's hand. He immediately understood what was about to happen. He wasn't going to just take it. He rushed straight at President Park. Grabbed him by the throat. You psycho, what the hell are you trying to do? But President Park calmly called him a punk. Then with one move, pinned him down tight. Guess what I'm trying to do? I told you my patience is limited. Then he beat the alpha down in a few hits. Left him with no way to fight. You alphas look down on everyone, don't you? I want to see how long your proud ego can hold out. Then he looked at the Omega. Shuo jumped and immediately swallowed the pill. Let's see how you stay calm during an Omega special time. I know because of what happened to your father, you have this tiny bit of sympathy for Omegas. But none of that matters. It all loses to instinct. You alphas look down on Omegas, but can't control your own instincts. As Xiao's pheromones got stronger and stronger, he lost more and more control. But he didn't go for Xiao, who was giving off the scent. He followed his instinct and went straight for President Park. President Park froze. He just came to crush his ego. What's he trying to do? You got a death wish. Get off me now. The punk was already out of his mind, muttering over and over. Please, I'll do whatever you want. Please, save my teacher. The lover he once trusted destroyed everything. Took his child away. Turned him into a damaged Omega. And had the nerve to say no alpha would want him. The boss was obsessed with taking down the alpha dog. But still hasn't gotten anywhere. Though he's gotten a taste here and there. So he showed up at the club in a good mood. Found his guy waiting at the door. Told him the person he didn't want to see was upstairs with. He turned and looked sharply at Assistant Yin. How come he got no heads up? But Assistant Yin looked just as confused. He had no clue to tell his guys to clear the place and headed to the top floor alone. His guy wanted to follow in case something went wrong but was turned down. Looking at the guards at the door all beaten and bruised. Did Director Choi do this to you? The guard didn't even dare respond. The boss scoffed. The guy was as nasty as ever. Then he opened the door and walked in. The man inside was giving off pheromones all over. Staring at him like a beast. You should give me a heads up before showing up here. Looks like even Assistant Yin didn't know you were coming. You're putting me in a tough spot. If I'm not here, my people get nervous. If you need something, just tell Assistant Yin. I'll send someone right away. Director Choi cut him off. You think I came here to buy drugs from you? The boss saw right through it. As I understand it, this is a critical time for Director Choi. You shouldn't be here. Director Choi frowned. You sure you want to keep standing that far away talking to me? The boss gave in and walked over to him. When the boss got close, the guy grabbed his wrist. Pulled President Park right up to him and sniffed carefully. He was not pleased with the scent. Heard you picked up a stray in Alpha. Now you're covered in that disgusting smell. Hearing that, the boss just laughed. Why not say I found myself a gem? Quality alphas like that are hard to find. Director Choi angrily grabbed President Park's hair. You think any alpha would want you? A completely useless Omega. That hit President Park where it hurt. His face darkened immediately. Let go. Don't make me turn into my worst self. Seeing him like that, Director Choi let go. President Park straightened his clothes. I'll send some people up to satisfy you. Whatever you need, just say the word. Hope you have a pleasant time here. He turned to leave. But one word stopped him in his tracks. Don't make me be the bad guy in front of you. President Park turned to look at him. What, you want to take something else from me? Like you took my child. They're leaving. The boss couldn't calm down. What alpha would want a useless Omega like him? But who destroyed everything he had? When they met in their youth, just one glance. He was completely hooked. They both fell hard. But the person he trusted destroyed him with his own hand. Took the baby from inside him. His body lost all Omega characteristics after that. After causing all that, how dare he say no one would want him? To make the alpha completely his, the boss was ruthless with others and even more ruthless. President Park worked hard to get to this position. But he still felt insecure about his physical condition. After the miscarriage, his pheromones disappeared. No more heat cycles, no chance of getting pregnant. He completely lost all Omega functions. When the hospital said they couldn't fix it, he didn't give up and kept looking for people to research. He refused to believe no alpha would want him. About the boss leaving him to watch the punk today, the guy was not happy about it. But right now he was more curious. How'd you know our boss was an Omega? No one's ever figured out his identity. Boss is tall and has no pheromones. Xu Taiyan was still wondering why he'd say that. Suddenly the door opened and President Park walked in. Who are you saying has no pheromones? The guy panicked immediately. That was the boss's sore spot. President Park didn't give him a hard time and just sent him out. Seeing that person earlier brought back all the memories. He had nowhere to vent his feelings. Right now there was a ready-made alpha in front of him. Without a word he grabbed him and beat him up, letting out all his frustration. You have no idea what you took from me, and what it meant to me. I want to kill you. I hate myself even more for still having hope for you. The alpha who got used as a punching bag finally snapped back. Enough, you psycho. But when he saw President Park's pained and sad expression, he froze. President Park didn't continue. He looked at the drug he just got back and made up his mind. You said from the start I had a scent, right? What a bunch of lies. Let me show you what I'm really supposed to smell like. Then he injected the drug into himself. This left the alpha even more confused. Soon his body started releasing pheromones. President Park couldn't believe it either. It actually worked on him, even if just temporarily. But his pheromones came back. Xu Taiyan felt the intense pheromones. The scent of freesia. Nothing like what he'd sensed before. From the start, he couldn't resist this scent. Let alone now. Driven by instinct, he walked toward the Omega step by step. All he wanted right now was to attack and claim the nature of Omega and Alpha. He couldn't hold his last line of defense. And this quality Alpha was even more wild. The boss's strong body almost couldn't take it. Given the Alpha's excellent performance last night, the man could finally wear normal clothes. No more dog collar around his neck. Having a title versus not having one makes all the difference. Becoming the boss's exclusive Alpha, why wouldn't he be into that? Assistant Yin came early to bring Xu Taiyan clothes. His face looked terrifyingly jacked. The boss really went through with the Alpha dog. When President Park came out, his eyes lit up. That's his Alpha. Looks good in anything. He even teased that he looked better with nothing on. After physical closeness, of course, they need to build emotional connection. President Park cleared his schedule. Took the punk back to his old place. Xu Taiyan didn't get why they were here. President Park made up an excuse about the landlord wanting the place back. So he brought him to pack up. But the punk wasn't buying it. You paid off my debts and bought me. Now you're playing nice bringing me to pack. You think I should be grateful for all this? President Park didn't care about his sarcasm. I told you I'm not some clueless creditor. As long as you listen to me, I can give you anything. Did you forget what we did last night? What, the pheromones made you forget? You were pretty wild last night. Your legacy's still inside me right now. What kind of wild talk is that? Left our punk completely speechless. After that, President Park wandered around the room alone, looking at this shabby, damp, rundown place. In conditions like these, how did an Omega raise a kid? Seeing Xu Taiyan's childhood photos on the wall, he got interested. Said he looked really ugly, but his hands wouldn't let go. All his attention was on the photo. He didn't notice the little girl suddenly at his feet. His instinct was to dodge. The little girl tried to get close to him. She accidentally fell and sat on him. Just then Xu Taiyan walked in and saw the scene. He thought President Park bullied the neighbor's kid. I thought you were just some cold-blooded thug. Never imagined you'd lay a hand on a kid. President Park acted all tough when he accused him like that. I hate kids more than anything. Spoiled brats who just grab at people and start bawling when they don't get their way. He was going to just walk away, but didn't want the guy to get the wrong idea. So he turned around and went back. Watching the two of them getting along so well was just irritating. He tossed his cigarette and walked over. Gritting his teeth, he said viciously, I didn't do anything. He fell on his own. Xu Taiyan had already learned the truth from the kid. Seeing him act all awkward, he wanted to tease him. Is that so? President Park was so angry he kicked him. He ignored that damn Alpha and headed downstairs. Xu Taiyan was speechless. This hot-tempered little spouse was actually she. The bot Alpha couldn't tell who was really in charge. He'd finally swallowed his pride to explain to her, and he dared to doubt him. When the two got home, President Park was still fuming. He immediately ordered the Alpha to strip everything off. Xu Taiyan obediently started stripping. Assistant Yin, seeing how compliant he was, immediately felt threatened. I can help you escape. Seeing Xu Taiyan wasn't very interested in what he had to say. You can't just keep living like this, right? If you're willing, I can help you. Even after you escape, I guarantee they won't find you. But Xu Taiyan flat. I'm not willing. I've got nowhere to go and no family. Here, I just have to cooperate with your boss. Then I don't have to pay off. Plus, it's getting colder outside. Rather than starving and freezing, I might as well stay here and warm the boss's bed, right? Worst case, I just get disposed of. And that's for your boss to decide. Why should I trust you? Oh, besides, you got some weird hostility toward me. It's not just some random inferiority complex. So what's it really about? She else. Obviously serving his master. You could say Kai Jiang really loves President Park. He destroyed President Park with his own hands for the inheritance. You could say he doesn't love him, but no other Omega interests him at all. He just fantasizes about President Park and he's over the moon. Since our boss was so angry, he injected more drugs into his body. Like that's the only way to keep his Alpha around. But Xu Taiyan noticed his pheromones were very unstable. Could something go wrong with his body at this rate? Anyway, there's nothing 1 or 2 rounds can't fix. So that night, President Park brought Xu Taiyan to the club. His subordinate looked at him with contempt. He left him to wander around on his own. Looking at all the debauchery in the club, he was dismissive. Just then he heard people over there quietly talking about President Park. Apparently Ki Jung, the director of Jungin Group, is our boss's lover. And this whole building was a gift from Q Jung to him. Xu Taiyan frowned. He has a lover. Turning around, he saw a familiar face. It was that Omega from the other day. Today President Park came specifically to meet with a director from Jungin Group. He wanted to finally break free from Q Jung. But he learned the man was about to become president. And his younger brother would also be joining the company. But with no real power, he's no match for him. Looks like Qui Jung will soon truly control Jungin Group. When President Park finished his business, he saw his alpha chatting happily with that Omega. His own guy was actually smiling so freely at someone else. He'd never given him a pleasant look. Was it because that one's a normal Omega? He just looked away for a second from the alpha, and he went following the scent to find another Omega. Seeing them chatting so pleasantly annoyed President Park. He spent 600 million and couldn't buy a singles. But he's grinning so happily at that Omega. Actually, the young Omega had been worried about what happened that day. When he woke up, he was all alone. But seeing Xu Taiyun was okay made him happy. Just then, a man suddenly put his arm around him. Thinking Xu Taiyan was his client, he wanted to stake his claim. He started verbally provoking him. The young Omega hated this and started struggling. Xu Taiyan frowned. Can't you see he's not willing? The guy scoffed. Did you leave your brain at home? You know what kind of place this is? This isn't a place for feelings. Clearly, sparks were flying between the two. The young Omega quickly tried to hold the man back. This guy is the boss's alpha, he can't afford to offend him. But the man thought the young Omega was siding with Xu. Angry, he was about to teach the young Omega a lesson. This reminded Xu Taiyan of his Omega father. He'd often get beaten by clients too. Back then, he didn't have the power to protect him. So he didn't hesitate and punched the man, knocking him to the ground. The man got up to strike back. But his fist was caught mid-air by a hand. Who exactly do you think you're hitting right now? The subordinate quickly subdued the man. President Park casually put his hand on Xu Taiyan's shoulder, declaring to everyone that this was his person. After things settled down, President Park took his alpha back to the office and scolded him harshly. I just let you out and you caused trouble for me. Didn't I tell you to behave? Fighting my men on my turf. Do you think I'm a joke? But the alpha insisted it had nothing to do with him. That man didn't know how to respect people, so I took action. Are you kidding me? Look at what kind of place this is. People come here to have fun. And all kinds of shady characters show up. With his temper, who knows what danger he'll run into. You need to understand you can't handle everything. If you run into someone reckless, you could get stabbed. Remember, you're mine now. Don't do anything dangerous again. Then, remembering how he smiled so happily at that Omega earlier, he cupped Xu Taiyan's face and told him to smile. But that was really asking too much of the guy. In this situation, he couldn't smile at all. President Park pinched his face repeatedly, annoyed. You were smiling so happily just now, weren't you? After the boss succeeded, he was giving off alpha pheromones all over. And high-level ones too. Anyone close could tell. Even the dullest person realized the boss was an Omega. But the boss knew the situation was only temporary. He was only controlling the alpha with drugs. Who knows what the side effects might be. After getting lectured by President Park, the guy was sent home first. But when Xu Taiyan got downstairs, he happened to see the man he'd clashed with earlier being taken into a car along with that Omega. He rushed over to ask what was going on. As the instigator, the subordinate was happy to explain. You think causing trouble at the club would just slide. Of course you don't have to face any punishment. But they definitely have to pay the price. Especially that Omega. Plenty of my guys want a taste of the Omegas here. All of this is because of you. Hearing this, Xu Taiyan turned and ran back. President Park saw the guy who'd returned. He thought he'd missed him already. But instead he came asking him to save that Omega. But President Park believed it was because of that young Omega. That his guy was nearly put in danger. So there's no way he'd let him off easy. Hearing such a flimsy reason, Xu Taiyan shouted angrily at President Park. How can you do this? You're an Omega too. Why are you so cruel to other Omegas? He was already in a bad mood and now the guy was making it worse. He was adding fuel to the fire. I don't know what Yonkin told you. I can let them go. But I'm really annoyed right now. Let's see if you're capable. Strip everything off right now. Then get it up and show me. With just that request, Xu Taiyan started letting loose without a word. President Park saw he showed no signs of getting it up. Sure enough, he still can't. His defective body can't interest anyone. Even if it does, it's brief. But Xu Taiyan had already walked up to him. He suddenly hugged him and sniffed his neck hard. You never said I couldn't touch you. What happened next? Even President Park couldn't believe. He hadn't used any drugs today. Could he really smell his scent? Seeing President Park was distracted. Your scent is really amazing. You know what I want to do right now. Then the guy went full predator mode. Of course the process is indescribable. Who knows how many rounds they went. Looking at his own Omega, Xu Taiyan couldn't help but ask. You said only I can smell your scent. But they say you have a lover. That Director Key from Jungin Group. They even said he bought you this whole building. President Park felt like he'd heard a joke. There are lots of rumors about me. The one that annoys me most is that I have a lover. If I had that thing, you'd be buried somewhere already. And he's not the owner of this building either. Xu Taiyan immediately brightened up. So I don't have to worry about getting killed by some lover of yours who pops up out of nowhere. Hearing him joke like that, President Park narrowed his eyes. You're mine, your life and death depend only on me. No one can touch you. The alpha had already fallen asleep from his own. But the boss was still wide awake. Can only say the boss is really something. Even now, President Park couldn't believe it. The guy could really smell his scent. He gently stroked Xu Taiyan's hair. From now on, he'd be like a normal Omega and have his own alpha. But this tender moment was interrupted. He just seen that Jungin Group had an incident. then received a message that Qiying wanted to see him. And this message was actually sent by Director Huang, whom he'd met yesterday. President told his subordinate to control the situation. He'd go meet him alone. Scarfish Angsu disagreed with President Park going alone. After something like this happened, the other side definitely thinks the boss is involved. This actually has nothing to do with President Park. But the boss does have a motive, right? With the facts right there, President Park couldn't argue. Instead of worrying about this, we should check our surroundings. Who really benefits most from all this? If that person thinks I'm involved in this, I have to clear up this misunderstanding. Just then, the guy walked out of the room. Where are you going? Seeing him, President Park smiled. So interested in your master's whereabouts now. Going to meet an important client in a bit. Xu Taiyin frowned. An important client? That must be someone as dangerous as you. You're planning to leave all these shady people here and go by yourself. Hearing the guy's words, President Park was in high spirits. The guy actually knows to care about his master now. If that's the case, I hope when I get back. You're wagging your tail at the door to me. When President Park arrived with Assistant Yi, the other party's people had been waiting for him downstairs in the lobby. What surprised President Park was, they wouldn't even let Assistant Yi follow him. This immediately put President Park on guard, though he'd prepared for danger. He just didn't expect to walk in on such a bloody scene. While he was stunned, someone behind him suddenly pulled the gun from his waist. You don't need this to see the director. I'll keep it here for safekeeping. President Park could only grit his teeth and let it go. He walked alone toward Qiujiang. The man was giving off intense pheromones, staring hard at him. Seeing him glance at the beaten guy behind. Someone you know. President Park immediately denied it. Better be. Though we do have an employee who frequents President Park's establishments. President Park knew who he meant. Just as he was about to make excuse, Kai Zhang rudely grabbed him by the hair. None of that matters. Then he threw President Park aside in disgust. Xu Taiyun, that's his name, right? If you want an alpha, you can tell me. I can arrange a proper alpha for you. Instead of picking up just any trash. President Park didn't know how many injections he'd been given. His whole body was trembling. His pheromones were already going crazy. He knew he couldn't hold out much longer. But Kai Zhang still wouldn't let him go. Just as another drug was about to be injected into his body, he used all his strength to knock it.